Time for a quick commercial.
That's right, Ellie. This episode is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. And they'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. To get started, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm today.
Happy Monday, everyone. It's time for my daddy's podcast.
Welcome back to the Lessons for Success podcast. I'm your host, Adam Wardlaw, a middle school science teacher and a high school football coach in South Carolina. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast heard by over 2,000 students, teachers, and coaches worldwide. The goal is to provide quick daily lessons to help you achieve more in your life. Be sure to reach out to the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok by searching L4S Show or using the hashtag L4S Show. Remember, it's the number 4. If you're listening on an iPhone, be sure to give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts in order to keep our community growing. Now let's start the show. One of the most important qualities you can have is a sense of belief. Welcome back, everyone. It's time for a brand new work week, and in today's episode, I'm going to share a story with you about how belief can overpower more than you think. We had a similar episode a couple weeks back about the elephant rope, and we discussed how our own minds can limit us. This story is a little different. It's about a businessman who did the unthinkable. Here we go. There once was a businessman who was in debt and couldn't figure out a way to get out of it. Creditors were pressing him. Suppliers were demanding for payment. He was sitting on a bench in the park with his head down, thinking about what could save the company from bankruptcy. Suddenly, an old man appeared in front of him, seemingly out of nowhere. "I see that something's bothering you," the old man said. After listening to the businessman's problems with his company, the old man replied, "I think I can help you." He asked the businessman what his name was, wrote him a check, and said, "Take this money. Meet me here again exactly 1 year from now, and you'll be able to return it to me at that time." After that, the old man turned around and disappeared just as suddenly as he had appeared. The businessman looked down at the check and saw that in his hands was a check for $500,000, signed by John Rockefeller. Some of you guys may not know this, but Rockefeller was one of the richest people in the world at the time. "I could end all my problems in no time," the businessman thought. But instead, the businessman decided he was going to put the check into his safe. Just thinking about having this check was giving the businessman inspiration for finding a solution to his problems. The businessman's confidence was back. He was closing some great deals for his company. During a couple of months, he got out of debt and started to earn money again. Exactly 1 year later, the businessman returned to the park with the same check. At the agreed upon time, the old man appeared again. Just as the businessman was telling the old man about his story of success and the revitalization of his company, a nurse ran up and grabbed the old man. "I'm so glad I caught him," she exclaimed. "I hope he wasn't bothering you. He always runs away from the house and tells people that he's John Rockefeller." The businessman was dumbfounded. During the whole year, he was wheeling and dealing and building his business. He was buying and selling confidently, mainly because he was convinced that he had $500,000 for safekeeping. You see, the businessman realized that it's not the money, real or imaginary, that turned his life around. It was his new confidence and belief that gave him strength to achieve everything that he had now. So folks, you may be in your own personal bind. You may be facing plenty of problems in your everyday life. It'll be your confidence and sense of belief that will allow you to overcome these trials. Have faith that you'll accomplish your goals no matter what they are, and don't be afraid to be confident in the process. Your sense of belief is a powerful thing. In fact, it's probably the most important thing you can have. Thanks for listening to another edition of Monday Motivation here on the Lessons for Success podcast. Let me know what you thought of today's story by reaching out to the show on social media. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Well, folks, that's it for another edition of the Lessons for Success podcast. Thank you for listening. Remember that you can keep up with the show wherever podcasts are found, as well as the newly updated Lessons for Success YouTube channel. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok to keep up with more content from the show. If you haven't already done so, give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That's all the time I have for today. Be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Lessons for Success show.